Guess he finally compensated for something. My name's Jeremy. I'm 37 years old and I work construction for Thornberry Systems here in Memphis, Tennessee. The woman who just said that about my dream car was my wife, Vanessa. She said it loud enough for her 3 friends to hear as I pulled my 1963 Corvette into our driveway. They all laughed like it was the funniest thing they'd heard all week. I'd been working overtime for 2 years to afford that car. Double shifts on weekends, holiday work when other guys went home to their families. Every extra dollar went into an account Vanessa didn't know about. She thought I was just putting in hours because I liked the work. Truth was, I'd been dreaming about owning that exact model since I was 15 years old. Saw one at a car show with my dad and it never left my head. The Corvette was cherry red with white racing stripes, original 327 engine. The owner had restored it himself over 10 years. When I first called about the ad, he told me 3 other buyers were coming to look. But when I showed up with cash and talked about growing up around classic cars, something changed in his voice. He said he could tell I'd take care of her right. I turned off the engine and sat there for a minute listening to Vanessa's friends still giggling on the front porch. One of them said something about midlife crisis, and another one mentioned how men always buy toys when they can't handle getting older. Vanessa was eating it up, nodding along like she was some kind of relationship expert. I got out of the car slow, ran my hand along the hood one more time. The paint was perfect, not a single scratch or ding anywhere. The chrome bumpers reflected the afternoon sun so bright it almost hurt to look at. "Jeremy, honey," Vanessa called out, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "We were just talking about your new purchase. The girls think it's interesting." I walked past them without saying a word, went inside and grabbed a beer from the fridge. Through the kitchen window, I could see them still sitting out there, probably dissecting every inch of my character. Vanessa's voice carried through the glass. Something about men and their need to prove themselves. That night, after her friends left and she went tubed, I stood in the garage looking at the Corvette. The moonlight coming through the window made the red paint look almost black. I thought about my dad, who died 3 years ago without ever seeing me get the car we'd talked about. I thought about all those overtime hours, all those missed dinners and weekend plans. Something was shifting inside me and I wasn't sure I liked where it was heading. Vanessa and I met years ago at a friend's wedding. She was working as a dental hygienist then, making decent money and talking about going back to school for something bigger. I was already established in construction, had my own crew, and was starting to make real money on commercial projects. Those first few years were good. We bought the house, got married, and everything seemed to be moving in the right direction. But somewhere along the way, she stopped working. Said she wanted to focus on making our home perfect, maybe start a family soon. The family part never happened, but the spending sure did. She developed expensive tastes and everything. Designer clothes, fancy furniture, weekend trips with her girlfriends to Nashville or Little Rock. Always something new she absolutely had to have. I didn't mind working extra to give her nice things. That's what a husband does, right? But the comments started around year 5. Little digs about my work's clothes, my truck, the way I looked when I came home covered in dust and concrete. She'd make jokes to her friends about being married to a construction worker. Like it was something embarrassing. Like the money I brought home wasn't good enough, just the source of it. Jeremy fixes things for a living. She'd tell people at parties with this laugh that made it sound like I was some kind of handyman, instead of a project supervisor managing million-dollar jobs. The Corvette obsession became her favorite target. Every time I mentioned seeing one for sale or talked about finally having enough saved up, she'd roll her eyes. We could use that money for real things, Jeremy, like remodeling the kitchen or taking a proper vacation. Last month, I found receipts in her purse from a shopping trip to Atlanta, $800 on clothes and shoes in one afternoon. When I asked about it, she said she deserved nice things after putting up with my boring car talk all the time. That's when I started noticing other things. How she never asked about my workday anymore. How she'd leave the room when I talked to my crew on the phone. How she seemed to light up only when I handed over my paycheck or when her friends came over to complain about their own husbands. 3 weeks ago, I drove past Riverside Park on my lunch break and saw her sitting on a bench with Kevin from next door. His wife Beth was out of town visiting her mother. They weren't just talking. Her hand was on his knee and he was playing with her hair. I didn't confront her, didn't say a word, but I did call the guy selling the Corvette and told him I'd take it. Maybe that was the moment I started planning something I hadn't even admitted to myself yet. The night after her compensation comment, I couldn't sleep. Vanessa was out cold beside me, snoring lightly like she always did. I kept replaying the scene in the driveway, hearing her friends laugh at something I'd worked so hard for. At 2 a.m., I got up and went to the garage, turned on the overhead light, and just looked at the Corvette. It really was beautiful. The previous owner had told me stories about driving at 2 car shows, taking his grandson for rides. The pride he felt every time someone stopped to admire it, that's what I'd imagined for myself. Instead, I got public humiliation. I opened the glove compartment and pulled out the registration papers. Everything was in my name. Title, insurance, all of it. Vanessa had no claim to this car. Hell, she had no claim to most of our assets if it came to that. The house was bought with money I'd earned. The furniture, the vacations, even her car, all paid for with overtime hours while she spent her days doing whatever she wanted. That's when it hit me. I was 47 years old and I was living like a prisoner in my own life. I went back inside and opened my laptop, started looking at apartment listings in Little Rock, about 2 hours away. Found a 1-bedroom place near the Arkansas River. Month-to-month lease available immediately. The rent was less than what Vanessa spent on clothes in a month. Then I looked up divorce lawyers, read about asset division, about what happens when one spouse has been financially dependent on the other, about proving adultery in Arkansas and how it affects settlements. By morning, I had a plan. For the next 2 weeks, I played the perfect husband, complimented Vanessa's cooking, asked about her day, even suggested we take a weekend trip to Nashville like she'd been wanting. She ate it up, probably thought her little joke had put me in my place. But I was moving money, opening an account in Little Rock, forwarding my mail to a post office box, taking pictures of receipts, documenting her spending, building a file. The hardest part was acting normal when I saw Kevin next door. He'd wave from his yard like nothing was happening, like he wasn't screwing my wife while his own wife was visiting family. I waved back every time. Yesterday, I put in my notice at work, told my supervisor I was transferring to her Little Rock office. Needed a fresh start. He understood. Good supervisors were always in demand. Tonight was the night. Vanessa was hosting another one of her friend gatherings tomorrow. Planned to show off some new furniture she'd bought. Perfect timing. I packed one bag and put it in the Corvette's trunk. Everything else I owned could be replaced. Some things were more important than others. I was about to find out what freedom felt like. The next morning, I waited until Vanessa was in the shower to load the last of my important papers into the Corvette. Bank statements, insurance policies, the documentation I'd been gathering. Everything fit in a briefcase that slid perfectly behind the passenger seat. My phone rang. Kevin from next door. "Hey, Jeremy. You heading to work early today? Saw you loading up the car," something like that, I said, not bothering to hide the edge in my voice. There was a pause. "Everything okay, man? You sound a little off." I looked toward his house, wondered if he was watching from his window. "Everything's fine, Kevin. Just fine." After I hung up, I realized he'd seen me packing. That meant he'd probably mention it to Vanessa when they had their next little meetup. I needed to move faster. I left a note on the kitchen counter. Simple, clean. "Vanessa, I've gone to Little Rock to think things through. Need some time away. We'll call in a few days. Jeremy." No explanation, no drama, just facts. I was backing out of the driveway when my phone started buzzing. Text from Vanessa. "Where are you going with your car?" Kevin said you were packing. Another buzz. "Jeremy, answer me." "What's going on then?" "This isn't funny. Come back home right now." I turned off my phone and headed for the interstate. The drive to Little Rock took exactly 2 hours and 15 minutes. The Corvette handled like a dream, smooth and powerful. I had the windows down, radio playing classic rock, and for the first time in months I felt like I could breathe. My new apartment was in a converted warehouse downtown. Nothing fancy, but it had character. Exposed brick walls, big windows overlooking the river. The landlord, a guy named Frank, was waiting for me with keys. "Nice ride," he said, nodding at the Corvette. "Don't see many of those in original condition." "She's been well cared for," I said. "I can tell. Garage space comes with the apartment if you want it. Extra $50 a month." "I'll take it." That evening, I finally turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls from Vanessa, 8 voicemails. A dozen texts that got progressively angrier. The first voicemail was confused. "Jeremy, what are you doing?" "Your note doesn't make any sense. Call me." The third one was irritated. "Okay, this is ridiculous. I don't know what kind of midlife crisis you're having, but you need to come home." Beth 7th, she was furious. "Fine, stay gone. But you're not taking that stupid car away from me. I helped pay for it too, that was interesting." She'd never contributed $1 toward the Corvette. Never contributed much toward anything, actually. The last voicemail came in around 9 p.m. Jeremy, Kevin told me he saw you packing like you were leaving for good. That's not what this is it? You can't just walk away from 8 years of marriage over a joke. Call me back. I didn't call back. Instead, I drove the Corvette down to the riverfront and parked overlooking the water. The Arkansas River was wide and dark with lights from the downtown buildings reflecting off the surface. I'd never seen Little Rock at night before. It was prettier than I'd expected. My phone rang. Vanessa. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again and again. On the 4th call, I answered. "There you are," she said, her voice shaky. "Jeremy, what are you doing?" People are asking questions. I don't know what to tell them. Tell them the truth, I said. What truth? That my husband ran away with his toy car like a teenager? Tell them their friend left his cheating wife. The silence on the other end stretched for about 10 seconds. "What are you talking about?" she finally said. "Kevin sends his regards," I said, and hung up. My phone didn't ring again that night. The next morning, I started my new job with Oakspire Construction. Same type of work, but the crew was smaller and the projects were more interesting. Historic renovations, custom homes, the kind of detailed work I'd always wanted to do, but never had time for in Memphis. My supervisor, Craig, was about my age and had worked commercial construction for 20 years before switching to residential. During lunch break, asked about the Corvette parked in the company lot. "Always wanted one of those," he said. "What year?" 63. Bought her 3 weeks ago. "Good investment. They're only going up in value." He paused, studying my face. "You look like a man with astery." "Getting divorced," I said. "Wife didn't appreciate the car." Craig nodded. "My ex-wife didn't appreciate much either. That's why she's an ex." That evening, I called my brother Danny in Jackson. He was the only family I had left since Daddied. I told him about Vanessa, about Kevin, about the move to Little Rock. Jesus, Jeremy, why didn't you say something sooner? What was I going to say? That my wife was treating me like her personal bank account. That she was screwing the neighbor. You could have talked to me. I'm your brother. I needed to figure it out myself. Danny was quiet for a minute. What about the house? Your business contacts. You're just walking away from everything. The house is mortgaged to the limit because of her spending. My business contacts know my reputation. That follows me anywhere. And Vanessa, what's she going to do? Same thing she's been doing for 3 years, nothing. That weekend, I hired a lawyer named Patricia Collins. She had 30 years of experience in family law and a reputation for being thorough. We met in her office Saturday morning, and I laid out everything. The financial record showing Vanessa's spending versus her zero income. The photos I'd taken of her with Kevin. The documentation of her pattern of public disrespect and emotional abuse. This is very comprehensive, Patricia said, flipping through the folder. How long have you been planning this? Honestly, I think I've been planning it for 2 years without realizing it. Every overtime shift, every extra dollar I saved, every time she made me feel small, I was building toward this moment. Your wife's going to fight for half of everything. Let her try. The house is underwater because of her credit card debt. The only real asset is my construction business. And that's built in relationships and reputation, not physical property. What about alimony? She's 35 years old and healthy. She can't get a job. Patricia smiled. I like working with clients who've done their homework. We'll file the papers Monday morning. Sunday evening, I was sitting on my apartment balcony when Vanessa called. Almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Jeremy, we need tow talk. I'm listening. This is crazy. You can't just throw away our marriage because of one stupid comment. It wasn't a comment, Vanessa. It was 8 years of them. I was joking. My friends know I was joking. Your friends know you've been humiliating your husband for years while he worked overtime to pay for your lifestyle. That's not how it was. How was it? She couldn't answer. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, I said. Jeremy, please. I know things haven't been perfect, but we can fix this. I can change. You had 8 years to change. I'm done waiting. I hung up and turned off my phone. Tomorrow would be interesting. Monday morning, Patricia filed the divorce papers. By law, Vanessa had Toby served within 30 days. I asked Patricia to wait 2 weeks before having her served. I wanted to be settled in my new life before the legal war started. The construction work was going well. Craig had put me in charge of renovating a 1920s mansion downtown, and the craftsmanship was exactly the kind of challenge I'd been missing. Details mattered here. Precision mattered. It felt good to build something beautiful instead of just functional. Wednesday evening, my phone rang. Unknown number, Jeremy. This is Beth, Kevin's wife. My blood went cold. Hey, Beth. I got back from visiting my mom yesterday. Kevin's been acting strange, guilty about something. I found text messages on his phone. I didn't say anything. They were from your wife. I'm sorry you had to find out that way. How long have you known? About a month. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? She was quiet for a long time. Probably not then. What are you going to do? Same thing you did. I think Kevin's packing his stuff tonight. Good for you, Jeremy. I'm sorry about Vanessa. About all of it. You deserve better, so do you. After we hung up, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Validation. Someone else had seen what I'd been living with, and they understood why I'd left Friday morning. Vanessa called from a number I didn't recognize. Jeremy. Kevin told his wife about us. I know. She called me. You knew about us and you didn't tell her. That wasn't my job. She's divorcing him. She's taking everything. His business, the house, their savings. Good for her, Jeremy. This is serious. People are talking. Everyone knows what happened. Let them talk. My friends think I'm a terrible person. Are you? Don't do that. Don't make me the villain here. Vanessa, you cheated on me with a married man while I worked overtime to pay for your lifestyle. Then you publicly humiliated me for buying something I dreamed about since I was a kid. You made yourself the villain. I can explain. No need. My lawyer will be in touch soon. Your lawyer? Jeremy, this is getting out of hand. This got out of hand when you decided our marriage vows didn't matter. I hung up and realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. That weekend I took the Corvette out to Hot Springs, drove the winding mountain roads, felt the engine respond to every curve, stopped at a classic car show, and spent the afternoon talking to other owners about restoration, about the joy of finding something special and taking care of it. An older man with a 1965 Mustang asked about my story. I told him about working overtime to afford the car, about finally making the dream happen. That's what it's all about. He said, not everyone understands the connection between a man and his machine, but when you find the right one, it's worth everything you put into it. Driving home that evening, watching the sunset paint the Arkansas sky orange and purple, I thought about what he'd said. The right connection was worth everything you put into it. I'd learned that lesson about more than just cars. 2 weeks later, Patricia called with news. Vanessa was served this morning. She wants to meet with you, with both of us. She says she has an offer. I'm listening. She's willing to waive any claim to your business assets and future earnings in exchange for keeping the house. I laughed. The house that's underwater because of her credit cards. That's what I told her lawyer. They want to meet Thursday at 2 p.m. Thursday came. Vanessa looked smaller somehow, sitting across from me in Patricia's conference room. Her lawyer, a nervous young guy named Brent, did most of the talking. My client recognizes that the marriage has irreconcilable differences. He started. Your client committed adultery, Patricia interrupted. We have photos. Vanessa's face went red. Those photos don't prove anything. Patricia slid a folder across the table. Actually, they do, along with witness statements from neighbors, phone records, and bank statements showing how you've been spending your husband's money while contributing nothing to the household. Brent looked through the folder and Heiss's expression changed. Mrs. Williams, you didn't mention the extent of the documentation. I want half of everything, Vanessa said, her voice shaking. I gave him 8 years of my life. You gave him 8 years of humiliation, Patricia replied. My client is prepared to be generous. He'll give you 6 months to find employment and get on your feet. After that, you're on your own. I can't survive on my own. I haven't worked in 3 years. Then you should have thought of that before you decided to cheat. Vanessa looked directly at me for the first time. Jeremy, please. This isn't you. You're not cruel. You're right. I said I'm not cruel, but I'm not stupid anymore either. What about our memories, our history? What about them? Doesn't that mean anything? I thought about her laughing with her friends about my dream car, about Kevin's hand on her knee, about 8 years of feeling like I wasn't good enough. It means I learned what I won't tolerate anymore. Vanessa started crying, real tears, not the manipulative kind she used to use when she wanted something. You're really going to leave me with nothing? I'm leaving you with exactly what you contributed to our marriage. I said nothing. Months later, I got word from Danny that Vanessa had moved back in with her parents in Nashville. She'd found work as a dental hygienist again, but the pay was half what she used to make. Her social circle had evaporated when the divorce became public, and everyone learned about the affair. Kevin's divorce had been even messier. Beth got the house, his landscaping business, and half his retirement. He was living in a studio apartment and working for someone else's company. I'd settled into Little Rock like I'd lived there my whole life. The historic renovation project was featured in Arkansas's Home magazine, and 3 new clients had contacted Craig, specifically asking for my crew. I was making more money doing work I actually enjoyed. Evenings I'd drive the Corvette down to the river and watch the sunset over the water. Sometimes other car enthusiasts would stop to admire her, and we'd talk about engines and restoration and the satisfaction of taking care of something valuable. Last week I met a woman named Claire at a coffee shop near my apartment. She was a teacher, recently divorced herself, and when she saw me getting out of the Corvette, her first words were, "Beautiful car." Classic lines never go out of style. We talked for an hour about dreams deferred and second chances, about the difference between people who build things up and people who tear them down. Vanessa faced the consequences of 8 years of taking her husband for granted, losing not only the comfortable lifestyle Jeremy had provided through his overtime work, but also her social standing when her affair became public knowledge, while her former lover Kevin lost his business and marriage as well. Both discovered that betraying loyal spouses carried a price they weren't prepared to pay, leaving them to rebuild their lives from nothing, while the people they'd wronged found happiness elsewhere. I never thought I'd thank someone for mocking my dreams. But Vanessa's cruel laughter taught me the difference between settling for disrespect and demanding the life I deserved.